What's up? Happy Monday. I just wanted to pop by last week, and actually earlier, maybe it was the end of last week or maybe even this weekend, I can't remember. We did one of those really fun, like, ask me anything type of things. And so I was asked some really great questions, and so I just wanted to pop by, and I want to get to know you guys more. And I guess the way to do that is by me exposing myself more and getting to know you a little bit more. Hi, Stacy. How are you? So good to see you. So a couple of questions that were asked, and I thought they were really good ones. One of the first ones was, what's really speaking to you? Like, what verse is really speaking to you right now? And the entirety of Exodus 14 is in my face and giving me so much life and so much blessing. So if you don't know the story, if you're not familiar, the Israelites are wandering around in the desert, and God says to Moses, what I want you to do is I want you to take the entire camp, and it's almost 2 million people, okay? I want you to take them right at the edge of the sea, and to this really exposed place where there's no walls and no covering. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enrage your enemy. I want you to go to the edge of land where you're right up against a rock and a hard place, right? Between land and sea, and then into a place where there's no covering. It's not a valley, it's a hill. I want you to take everybody up there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make your enemy hate you. You're like, wow. It seems like we should have an alternate plan, God, because remember, I'm like the chosen one. Remember, these are your chosen people. And so Moses goes to work in reminding God of who God is, not who his people are, but he reminds God that you said that you love us. He reminds God of who God is, and God says, this is what I want you to do. And so Moses, in obedience, goes and does it. And I think what's fascinating about Moses being a leader is that he's got to go take this really crazy idea from God and sell it to the people. Anyone in leadership? Anyone lead your family? You know what I'm saying to you? Where you're between a rock and a hard place, and God tells you to go do something, and then you got to go and you've got to communicate the message. So he goes back to very stubborn people, and they say to him, like, wasn't it enough to die? We could have been... Yeah, and this is what happens, right? This is what happens under persecution. God is with you and for you and never against you. He tells you to do something, and then we rage against the injustice of provision. We rage against it. We're like, I'm so mad that God is God and I'm not. And and then they started lamenting for what used to be in Egypt when they were in their slavery. Anyone? So at least we had food there. We know we were going to die. We knew that we were going to be beat to death. We knew that we were defined by something that's not our character, and this sonhood and this adoptedship and this, but look where it's gotten me, into the wilderness. There's a million things going on in the wilderness. That's not the point. The point is we get incensed and we start to believe that our slavery was better. I don't know, something like it just was easier when I drank. Or it's just easier for me to eat, or it's just easier, like the thing that you've been delivered from, that you're traversing a new way with, God pushes into you a little bit, and you start reminiscing about how great it was in your slavery. I do. I know, maybe you don't. Maybe you're much more evolved than I am. But what's fascinating about it is that Moses does it, and he takes the grumbling people and he puts them in harm's way, seemingly. But remember, God never does anything that he's not willing to make good on. So he tells them to go up there. He sends the enemies after him, and they are dying, right? They're like, oh my gosh, and what's so great about Pharaoh's ego is that he sends his entire army. Now, these people, they don't have any weapons. They haven't defied him. They left on his own accord. Like, he just gets incensed. God allows for rage in our enemies sometimes, and he takes all of his entire army, you guys. Like, it's like so overkill. It's like taking a sledgehammer to a fly. So he sends them all out there, and then he tells Moses, lift your hands. He gets the leader involved in the miracle. In the midst of all the grumbling, in the midst of, I want to go back to my slavery, he gives the leader authority to participate. And he says, Moses, I want you to raise your hand over the sea. And he does it in faith. And what happens is God, the pillar of smoke that had been leading his people out and hemming them in, moved from the front to the back. Now here's where it gets crazy, because I think God stopped time. I'm not sure, but it says on one side of the cloud it was day, on one side of the cloud it was night. And there was a separation. See, the Egyptians were seen by the Israelites. So they weren't that far off in the distance, and yet God in his godness came behind them and separated them for what was a good night's watch, at least 12 hours. Why did it take 12 hours? There were 2 million of them. When Moses stretched his hand out in faith, the water started to part. It takes a little while to get the whole lot across. A lot of people. But he separated, he made room and space. He gave distance. They were within eye shot. That's a 20-minute ride at best. And all of a sudden there's 12 hours where the people are able to walk across into a promised land. I don't know. I don't get it. But I do know I've been in my own precipice where I've had to hold out my own hand in faith and participate. Not as a leader, but as a follower. You too? I think so. Anyway, story goes that they get everyone across. God removes himself, and then the Egyptians start running into the sea. Now remember, I already told you about Pharaoh's ego. That's what happens when the enemy gets a hold of you. You get a really inflated ego. And he brings his entire army, people. Everything. He brings into the middle of the sea, and Moses from the other side removes his hand, and what happens? And God even says to Moses, remove your hand. He's even on the back side, he wants participation. Amen? Even when you cross over. So he goes, hand, and he held up his hand and the seas came back together. Do you know that not one chariot was spared? I love what God says in Exodus 14:14 before they walk across. Moses says to the people, stop your grumbling, turn and face your enemy. For the giants you see today, you will see no more. God will fight for you. All you need to do is be still. Now, I'm not talking about a stillness of foot because he just parted the sea, so you better get moving. What I'm talking about is a stillness of heart, of trust and resolve, that no matter what rock and hard place you are between, God is going to make a way, period. He can't not, period. But sometimes, friends, you need the discipline is to turn around and look it in the eye. You are running from things. I am running from things that aren't even chasing. Oh, I heard that. You are what Proverbs tells us that. You run though no one is chasing. And it's a matter of turning around and going, the things I see in front of me that are giants, that have chased me around for my life, this is their enslavement, and they're pining, by the way. God goes, hey, Moses goes, turn around, take a look at your enemies, and they're right there. Kind of like when you want to take that drink. When you want to make that phone call and you want to get on the line and you want to buy that thing, you want to look at that thing, you want to cheat on your husband, you want to fantasize about, do you get what I'm saying? There's this whole thing, and we get to turn and we get to face it. And you just need to be still. I feel like he should have thrown in a silent, because those people are grumbling people. I'm giving you that. That's not in the word, but I'm just saying it might behoove you to turn around, be still, and shut your mouth. Amen. So that's my favorite scripture right now. It's a long answer to a short question. Another question I got was, what's your favorite worship song right now? It's Holy Water. That I don't listen to country. I don't like country. I'm kind of like somebody, like, you better be feeding me some great barbecue or something for me to listen to country. But this song, I think it's country, but I really like it. So that's my favorite worship song. 2 more questions. One of the questions was, when is your book coming out? I don't know. Here's the thing with this book. It's been really fantastic. It's been a great process for me. But what true to form, my other two books, publishers came to me. And so I've never put a book proposal together. I've worked in response to people inviting me to be a part of a project. So no one had knocked on my door or done anything like that. I just felt like a real necessity to get what was inside of me, outside of me. And true to form, like with Holy Yoga, I built a program around it. And so the manual and the program, Power of Presence, that I'm doing is really the bulk of the book. So the book itself is about 3/4 done. But I don't know what we're going to do with it. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's just for the program right now to keep fleshing through and working through and leading people through it. But I do know God will make a way. So I don't have any plans of like knocking on doors. I think God will, in his right time, bring the right opportunity to see it. I think it is for the nations. I think it is for the rest of the world, but I don't have any plans of knocking on doors and trying to make that happen. Just want to be responsive to what God is doing. So I don't know, but a version of it is the Power of Presence program that I work people through, which is a 9-week spiritual formation and mentorship program. And then lastly, the question was, how do you get a good group of girlfriends? Like, how do you do community well? What makes sense, and how do you vet people in terms of the closeness of your community? And I've been thinking about this one ever since I received the question, because I think at different times in my life, I've deployed different strategies. Like in my 30s, I learned how to network. I learned how to take the skill of my chameleon. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. So I'm motivated by achievement and performance. I won't perform unless I can achieve. That's what a 3 is. But I'm motivated by it. And so in my 30s, I think I developed a lot of relationships and community around my career. I think I invested in a lot of people that could partner with me and grow my career, and I'm sure, helping them as well. But a lot of my community was around my career and my pursuit. As I neared my 40s, I'm 43 now, as I neared my 40s, the Lord gave me this picture. I was with my pastor, and he was saying how, in your 20s, you've got this big, huge pen, and you're encouraged, just kind of move around and explore, but we're not really secure enough in order to really explore the outer edges, and so we kind of stay centralized in this big area. But in our 30s, what we do is we hug the fence line, right? We start to grow. We start to grow in our impact. We seed. We endeavor. We want to push against those fences, and certainly in my 30s were like that. I did a lot in my 30s. I was married with 3 kids. By the time I turned 30, I had started Holy Yoga. I had written 2 books, and then I ran at it, right? 30s were the decade of the grind for me. So my community had to fit into my grind. So in my 40s, as I was saying earlier, I got the real picture that God was bringing the fence line in again. That there would be a smaller circle by which I'm familiar. And in that 30s pursuit where I had a lot of network and I was doing a lot of this, I was exposing myself way too much. I was giving the masses what was meant for the intimate relationship. Does that make sense? So it was motivated to boost me. Now in my 40s, my community is really about, who do I want to pour into? Who can I help? Who can I love? Who can I better? And so my fence line has gotten smaller. My spirituality has gotten larger. So I depend less on my community. And not that I'm more open to being in community than I've ever been, but I also have very few expectations of community. Here are the things. I believe that expectation is premeditated resentment. I'm going to say it again so you can write it down, because that's a good one. Expectations are premeditated resentment. And so I don't have a lot of expectations of my community, though I'm more apt to lean into my community because I have a deeper sense of my own self. So I think in answer, again, I do really long answers to really short questions. At this stage in my life, I'm very particular about who's in my 12. You know, Jesus modeled rungs of intimacy and circles of intimacy so well, right? He was alone with his Father. He had the 3, he had the 12. The 12 fed the 72, and the 72 fed the masses. In my 30s, my community was the masses, and I was sharing with the masses what was meant for the 3. And in my 40s, I'm really conscious of who the 3, and specifically the 3 is like very intentional, and then the 12 is super intentional, and beyond that, I don't care. I don't have expectations. I don't need them to be, I don't need them not to be. So I think having a healthy sense of myself in this season, and whatever season you're in, whether you're 20 or 60 or 30 and building, just be conscious of your rungs of intimacy, who you let in where, and be really respectful of yourself in that. I want you to know that you will not be loved by all people. That's okay. You're not Jesus and you're not ice cream, right? So it's okay when people don't love you and don't like you. There was a Harvard study, and it said that around 37% of the people who meet you will not like you. You're a statistic, friend. Don't take statistics. You wouldn't take a statistic personally, so don't take it in that way either. Okay, that's it. I'm so grateful. Bryn Boone, you're supposed to be in school. Thank you for joining, though. I'd love for you to get back to school. I hope you guys have a great day. And thank you for being here, Tasha Anderson. I love you guys. Have a great day. I'm going to do these like every Monday. So if you want to know something, and you can even type it in here and I'll answer it. I just want to get to know you guys a little bit more. Okay. Have a great day. See you later.